Hey everyone, welcome to Mechs and Miniatures to our new episode. I am Rick Graham, creator of Revelations the Universe and Revelations Skirmish the Miniatures game, and I am joined by.
João, also known as Polygon Masterworks, creator of Black Star.
We have an interesting exercise that we're going to get into in this episode. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do kind of kind of what we've been up to because we missed last week. Jero, what is some new stuff going on with you and with Black Star?
Well, I'm doing all sorts of things from art to redesigning the Polygon Masterworks website, which will double up also for the Black Star website, because I realized that I need to have like a stronger presence and a branded presence aside from my Instagram, where I'm talking to a lot of people and I want to sometimes reference them to like, here's my website, you can check out all the info from the game, and I don't have that. So I'm building that, which meant taking a lot of time out of other stuff, which is basically why some of the Patreon releases haven't been released yet. Um, and dealing with contracts, dealing with legalities for the company, stuff like that. Lots of stuff, and putting on lots of different hats.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt. And people don't recognize, I don't think someone who hasn't worked with websites before doesn't recognize how much time can get sucked into that. And you don't have much to show every time because it takes so much to put the infrastructure in place or to figure out the backside that they just see a couple of pages like, well, that's not so much work, but it still took you weeks.
Yeah, and I was doing it sort of like I was trying to like actually go into the website itself and mess around with it and go from there. And I had to stop, and I had to, okay, this isn't working. I need to actually go into Photoshop and do a complete mock-up of the website, so that I am not always going back and forth, like changing things and having to go back to rechange things and fix stuff, and then I go forward and I break something that was on the back. So I'm taking the time now to basically build the entire website in mockup in Photoshop, so I know when I move back to the coding part and the actual building the website, I know exactly what I'm doing, so it will go much faster. But it's some time. I wouldn't say wasted, but obviously, like you said, all this it seems, oh, it's just a few things. No, this stuff takes time, to do.
Yeah, no,
Small details as
100%.
well. Yeah.
Right. Um,
And then obviously, like, doing all the Patreon content, and then developing like the game, and then doing all the business stuff. Again, lots and lots of stuff.
so I saw on your Instagram, I believe it was I don't remember what the date was, for your Kerensky
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
So that's not quite the finished version for what's going to be released.
No, basically, I reached the conclusion that, okay, the first concept done by Alex Iglesias, the concept designer for Mechs Online, uh, that was done for a mod we worked on like 15 years ago or something. Um, and it doesn't quite work in 3D form. And then a few years later, I did the second version, which is the Kerensky MK2, which is actually in one of my portfolio, and at the time was in a few websites. Um, and that one was done using like a Kit Bash kit, which is non-commercial, so I can't do that version exactly. So
Okay.
but so I went back to Alex and asked him to basically do a redesign, taking both of these into account, like if it's the third version of this Mech, and he's actually doing a new concept, a brand new concept in the Kerensky family for the actual final Kerensky MK3 design that will be in Black Star. But obviously, the first one and the second one will belong to the lore of the game. The first one is a prototype. The second one is an early production model, and then we will have the third one actually in full miniature form in the game, but it's already lore that is starting to build.
That's see, and then um, I've run into some of the same sort of situations and revelations where stuff is the real world then just becomes lore for
Yeah,
for in universe.
because
So
I still really like the concept Alex did way back, but it works in art form, in illustration, but it doesn't quite work in 3D. And then the other one, like I said, I don't want the kit bash kit was, even though I customized it and I have a lot of my own parts in there, it's non-commercial, so I'm not gonna infringe on that. And besides, I like the proportions in the design, but I wanted it to be a bit less industrial design. I have a lot of stuff there that sometimes less is more. So the model was actually so busy, and I wanted to take it back a little bit. And Alex will, I'm sure, will pump out a kick-ass concept for the Mac.
yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing that
Yeah,
when it comes time for public reveal.
yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
I'm sure the model will look great as well. I'm excited for that. It will probably be the free sample of the game. It will be the Kerensky MK3.
okay, okay,
It was something that patrons, several people actually mentioned that, but patrons mentioned it as well, and I think it's a good idea, right? I have everything on Patreon. I don't do monthly locks, so the Patreon everything is always available to anyone that subscribes. And obviously, Blackstar working as a subscription service, like supporting development, people who have access to everything. But people and patrons mentioned that maybe it would be a good idea to have one unit from the game actually be free, so people can try, can see the quality of the models, can try out the game and see the cards and see the game elements. And it's probably gonna be this one.
all right. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't I don't currently have any sample stuff.
yeah,
I have the primer, the rules, the stats. I have a lot of stuff that's available, but $5 and you get a model that you can print as many as you want. So
yeah.
um, I've looked into that a little bit, but I just haven't resolved anything just yet. But um, with Revelations, there's been a lot happening. We did a major announcement last Friday that is very big. It was a lot of stuff that was being announced from um, the fourth faction, the update on when the Faust Union was actually going to be released this year. To We showed off 5 models that are in development for the Faust Union. Some of them already moved into prototyping for test printing, and then we're also going to be selling shirts through Rainy River Designs, which has me excited because that's something that people had asked for in a poll I did recently for merch, and it was something that I couldn't myself provide. So you have to eventually bring other people in to some capacity to partner with and kind of collaborate to get things moving forward. So I'm excited for that. The models we have, I I don't actually have an exact count of how many models are in development right now, but there's a lot of variants. There's a lot of stuff moving all at once right now. It's an awesome time for development, um, and I look forward to the release because then all this time that we've been talking about things that the community can start getting their hands on it and painting and playing themselves. So
Yeah.
it'll be something that's um, very cool. Plus, I'm revisiting our universe primer. Um, I recognize that it needed an update. Some people didn't think it was a good idea to update it just because we'll keep moving forward. But I was thinking, this is the product. It's free. They can go to the shoprevelations.com to download it. But it's when I made it a couple of years ago, it was good for what I could do. And while I'm not going to be reinventing the wheel, it does need some refreshing with formatting. It needs better artwork that I now have that I didn't have then that I can put in, plus painted images of models. Um, And then some of the lore has been refined since then. It doesn't mean it's been swapped out, but it can just be worded better, or there's more that can be added with just a few sentences that just adds more depth to something rather than just because when I wrote it, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So I tried to keep certain elements vague enough for lots of stories to be able to eventually be told in those areas. So um, that'll also be free when I update it. But I'm looking forward to that just to kind of have a better footing for that initial experience for someone who's brand new, doesn't know anything about Revelations, that they can download that and then feel pretty equipped to have a decent grasp, whether they only want to play the game or they want to also add in novels for lore supplements.
And it's important. I think it was a good decision, man. It's a primer for the universe and for the game, and it's free. So you want to put your best foot forward. So now that Revelations has really been much more developed, and you have better art, and you have like painted minis, you have all this stuff that has advanced. So it just makes sense to do like a primer 2.0 kind of situation, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things you never want to go back and redo a free product. Not too often, but every couple of years it's probably a good idea to re-update just because, like you said, it's the best foot forward. It's the first introduction to to any depth of your universe, your product, your brand. So you don't want to uh you don't want that to suck. You want it to be pretty
Or
helpful
outdated.
to the players.
Yeah, or outdated. I mean, imagine
Oh
that.
yeah, well, right, yeah.
Right. So
There
so it's
there
normal.
there hasn't been, I don't know how much would be outdated with it, but there has been some things that have moved forward that I think are cooler in the lore that should be sprinkled in there so that it feels more connected
Yeah.
to what's happening right now. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that sounds good, man. That sounds good. Um, and the big update you did had lots of awesome stuff. I recommend everyone to go check it out. Lots of awesome looking miniatures, mechs, and news from that update. I was watching you post it, and it's like it kept going and going and going.
Well, yeah. Well, so for people who didn't see, when I was doing it live, I wrote it in Microsoft Word, so I had it all typed up, and then I put where the images were going to be because there was lots of pictures,
Yeah,
lots of branded pictures. I made sure everything was branded. But when it came time to post, you can only, like on Discord, you have a character limit. But so I was posting in text section, then I would throw in an image, the next section image, and it took me quite a while across a couple of servers to update everything because it was a lot to post. And the one thing that nobody commented on, and I wasn't sure, it was the voice that I was using when I was writing. I was trying to be kind of, because everyone could come across as being very corporate and very dry. And I was like, I want to throw in some elements of me, a little bit of humor into it. So I tried to write it kind of more playfully, but nobody commented on that element. So I don't know if it worked or if it was too much.
no, I think it came across. I thought it was a more relaxed update. So again, like you mentioned, it didn't have that sort of business speak stiffness that sometimes we tend to like, and it's silly, we have to maintain some aspects, but we are indie developers, so we don't have to make like a press release like Microsoft.
Right, right. And you're trying to show a little bit of character and not
Yeah,
just be, you
dry.
know, a stiff guy in business suit and tie and talking
Please,
about mech
please,
models.
please be excited about our new product. Some of the I understand that they also have the English challenge, and but some of those Japanese announcements are like really like super dry and stiff, and then sometimes you get a developer like that infamous Konami conference where the guy is going like I, it I think he wasn't presenting Dynasty Warriors, but it was some game like that. No, like talking about millions and millions of troops and all that. And whenever I see a Square Enix presentation, and they're like, "Please be excited." Okay.
Yeah, and that's just not gonna work for people. They're gonna you have to have a really freaking good product that they can look past that and just be like, wow, that's really cool. I actually want that.
And especially because it doesn't work, and then you go in, you see the original versions in Japanese, and they go crazy in ads and in presentations and even in talk shows and all that, really like really energetic. But then they try to put out one of these presentations for the West, and it's super like boring. It's just business speak 101.
Yeah, what does that say about us over here?
Yeah. Um, well, again, personality. We need to inject some personality into this stuff. Otherwise, it's all the same, and that doesn't work. That's no fun.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Hey, that's you're gonna see the image I used for the background of our money in this little exercise, and that's what I like about Elon, man. He was like hammering it up on Joe Rogan, and I'm sure he was feeling good. And lots of interesting stuff going around with Elon at the moment, but that's not neither here nor there.
Yeah. So I think I'm looking forward to doing once all this, like I was saying, like all this stuff releases and updates. But
Yeah.
this exercise we're about to go through, I think is going to be very interesting because so you guys know, so we set it up. We don't know each other's answers, so I have zero idea what Dro super values compared to what I would do. So I'm looking forward to kind of hearing also from his perspective.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting for sure. Um,
I feel like mine's going to be super predictable.
why?
I I figure most people will probably be able to get really close to guessing. I don't know, 80% of what my answers will be.
Right. Well, and before we start, I just want to say this is from the perspective of doing a new game, but we can't really first we can't really do it from like a idiot's guide to a new game, because we already have established stuff, and even just a small thing like, oh, I already had a 3D printer, so I don't need to invest in a 3D printer. So that will always influence this exercise we're about to do. And the other thing is our backgrounds, right? Rick is a writer and he writes fiction, so he's probably not going to invest money in that. And I'm an artist, so I'm probably not going to invest money into having other people do the 3D models. So again, this is always filtered through our experiences and our skills. And even though it's like we're gonna build a new game and we have $10,000 each, or 10,000 smoked Elons, um, and but it is what it is, and I'm sure we're gonna have different perspectives on this.
I bet to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent. The other day I watched a Jerry Springer segment. You know Jerry Springer, that show where people went
Yeah,
to,
it's if you made Florida Man a show.
and one of the guys was like, "Oh, but she did this and that, so you cheated on her," and he was like, "Well, no, to an extent, but she did this and this to you, right? So you're cheating on your wife. How do you feel about that?" "Oh, well, I guess to an extent." And I'm like, so what point in sexual intercourse is the cheating line? No, I just found it funny. That guy kept the whole video saying to an extent, to an extent. So I kind of
I wonder
memorized.
if he he started to go to law school, so he has like enough of don't incriminate yourself knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, it's basically something like that. But they're like, oh, she did this and this and this, and he's like, to an extent.
So he can deny as much later as he needs to.
Yeah. But okay, let's give Jerry a rest and let's jump into the actual exercise. So we have a few categories, basically art and practical stuff like the miniatures, and we have lore fiction. We have the actual rules of the game, and we have the ancillary stuff like website and app and advertising and stuff like that. And on the other side, each of us has 10,000 smoked Elons that we can invest in each particular section. Rick is the blue ones, I'm the orange ones, and the point of the exercise is seeing okay, what are our priorities in terms of investing the money in each section. So starting with concept art, Rick, how do you feel about investing money in concept art?
Well, I personally love concept art when I can get it. Because it's like a moving target. Different artists come and go.
Yeah,
Um, I I view concept art in um I like being able to see sometimes behind the scenes of projects to be able to see what they would use as concept art. And I've noticed that some brands will use concept art as their promotional art. They'll use it as just regular artwork throughout all the different kinds of aspects. So I've started to use concept art kind of to do the same sort of thing. So for me, um, concept art can be a lot of different things. Now, if I was coming, like I'm coming from the perspective of a brand new game, um, I'm going to need whatever the units are. I'm going to need extra characters. I'm going to need faction logos. I'm going to need a lot of stuff. Hopefully, being able to put in some scenery. Just more of like living the life in whatever universe. So, like for example, I'm coming at this a bit. I don't have 10,000 real dollars, but if I did, if someone handed me $10,000 and said, "Okay, Rick, go make your Revelation space game,"
yeah,
um, I would. I'm so some of this stuff was added from that perspective of as Dro began to mention earlier. I already have some infrastructure in place. I don't need to worry about the actual 3D printers. I don't need to worry about certain other aspects. Putting money to the legal side of starting my business. Right. I have some of that stuff. So if I'm just moving into the concept art phase, and I had 10,000, I would probably, with the numbers I broke down on my notes, I'd probably put about 2,000 into concept art.
all right. So let's pick up two Elons and drag them there. 2000 on concept art.
Yeah.
All right. In my case, yeah, I agree. Concept art is really important, and it's one thing that I'm basically hiring. Almost all the Mechs are designed by talented Mech designers. I do the models, but they do the concepts first, because I don't think I'm actually like a good Mech designer. I do great Mech models, but in terms of designing, I'd rather have other people do the designs themselves. So I definitely put some cash there, um, and I agree around 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised. I would have thought you would have gone a little lower.
No, I just see that I thought about it, and most of the money that I'm spending at the moment is actually just Mac concepts. So and I have three different concept artists doing the concepts for Max at the moment. So
Lucky.
I can't really deny the evidence. And again, with really nice concept art, polished to a certain extent, to an extent again. Um, you can use that as well for promotional and marketing material. I've been
Right.
posting some of that stuff on Instagram, for example. Looks
Yeah.
good,
Right.
so it can be used for that. Moving into key art, which basically is more fancy illustrations, like more completed illustrations, stuff that could be on covers, that could make really nice wallpapers that you can put for marketing in like magazines and website banners and advertising, all that stuff. How do you feel about, even though sometimes we can also use nice concept art for that, but it tends to be like a really separate thing. So, there are artists that specialize in key art, for example.
Right. So with key art, I I have several different pieces that have been made. Some of them now are unfortunately outdated because certain things weren't in place properly prior to, because I didn't have the money to invest in like really good concept art that I, and some of the illustrations are just kind of meh at this point by the standard that I've moved forward. Like the one that I did recently with the Blood Wolves battle scene, like that is like one of the best that we have, like in
Yeah,
top two.
yeah,
So I have others that are now kind of meh. But key art is helpful because it's something that's usually, you try to make it something that's very colorful, something that's very, it doesn't have to be super vibrant, but it's something that tells a very good sample of whatever your game is. So I, in my mind, I could probably find someone between 200 to 350 to do key art most of the time, and it depends on how busy it is. But I would probably put like 1500 because I would utilize concept art to help later for images, like I was saying, in the rules or in a primer or also in social media.
right.
So it gives me a lot to use. So the more key art I can get, the more I can do. Or I'm sorry, the more concept art, the more I can actually use for multiple things. Key art is so expensive that you can only get so much and you can only get so much out of it. Now, what I could end up doing, what I do, is I take the key art and I turn it into book covers.
Yeah,
So I purposely, every time we do an illustration, it's made on purpose for something else. So I'm getting it in multiple uses and not just, oh, I made a book cover. Because then, a lot of when you go through the bookstores and you look around, a lot of those book covers couldn't be used for anything else. Some of them are just absolutely awful. So it's just nothing you can do with it, right?
yeah,
So, I try to be mindful of, we're going to use this as a book cover or as a rule book cover or something. But then it's also going to be a social media post. It could be turned into a wallpaper if someone wanted to get these printed as a poster or something,
yeah,
wallpaper on a computer screen, so we can do different things with it. And I've tried to get better about how I plan it. So like with the last one with the Blood Wolves, I told the artist, okay, look, I need this much of the image to be able to be used as a book cover. So we have to kind of make sure everything's like in that imaginary rectangle so I can use it as a book cover. And then we have extra stuff on the side happening. But so it was something to be very mindful of as it was developing and trying to tell the artist too to be mindful of that.
yeah. Composition is important. So, and since we are indies, again, we have to like be able to use this key art for a variety of purposes, because we can't afford to do like five separate key art pieces each for just one thing. We're not Games Workshop.
No.
So yeah, you said 1500.
Yeah, I would probably do around 1500.
All right, all right, 1500 it is. Yeah, I would say something like that. Um, something like that. Probably 2000. Yeah, something like that. I think key art is very important, and not just in terms of composition. If you structure it correctly, and the artist does provide you with like the file with a few elements that are in layers, you can even like take the key art that has like 2 or 3 mechs, and you will be able to individually take each of the mechs out and use them, for example, for in the pages of the rule book to break up the text and stuff like that. So there's again concept art, key art. There's a relationship here, but sometimes concept art is very loose and it's not really very cinematic or awesome. So it's just concept art. Other times you can repurpose it, and key art are those like really polished images. And again, I'm a visuals guy, and the first impact most people have is looking at the visuals of your game. So the visuals need to be cool, basically.
Right. And key art is something that, I mean, you could invest thousands easily.
Oh yeah,
You could drop $1,000 on one piece of key art
yeah.
easily. And because that's just what some artists charge. So I have to kind of look around for something more affordable. And it's not so much a skill set, because a lot of times I've been able to find artists and modelers that are more affordable because maybe it takes them longer. So instead of being like, well, I'll get it done in 2 days, so you're paying for my speed, you're paying for when they can get to it, But
Yeah.
like, there are people who drop for novels, they'll easily drop $1,000 on a sci-fi image, and I look at it and I'm like, it's not even that good. I could find someone for easily half of that who's going to just blow the pants off that one and do a way better job. But they have a different mindset going in, I guess, that this is just how much it costs. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you just knock on a couple doors, you could find a much better deal.
Well, and art, it really depends also on the objective of the art. Like an artist will always charge you more if they know, okay, this is a high profile book that will sell much more than that other book.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
So in terms of exposure, he will charge you more, and I mean, I used to be a freelance artist, so I understand why, right? It doesn't mean, obviously, that's not an excuse again to do crap key art or stuff like that, but I mean, and searching for artists, I got quoted from some artists like to do a key art piece, $3,500, and but these guys were really really good. Again, that these were guys that do like stuff for Marvel and for DC, and
Were they going
and
to help you sell the game too?
I mean,
I
it's it's
well, like, what, $3,500?
it's like anything, I get it, but it's like and I didn't go with them because it's really expensive, um,
A little bit.
but it's like every other field. It's like sports, like the regular guy, the squad guy that barely anyone knows his name earns X, and the star quarterback earns like 50 times that, you know. So some of these artists that are really good and more well known, they really really charge much more. There's no other way around it. Obviously, I it really depends on what you want to do. I won't have a physical box set, like those big Games Workshop
Yeah,
boxes for the editions. But if I
right.
had, I would have no problem dropping that amount of money for the box art, because then the box art needs to be absolutely the best art piece that I can buy with my money. But since I don't, it's really for that kind of money I can get like 3 or 4 other pieces, really good pieces of key art, right? If it's like the box art, that single piece that everyone will see when they see the box on a shelf or they pick up the box, then that piece needs to be absolutely amazing. And how how much do you think those guys that do the illustrations for the box art in Games Workshop charge? They're charging those kinds of values. They're charging even more. First, they know it's like a high profile IP, and they know it's a high profile game, and they know the box will be everywhere. They're charging a lot of money for that key art. But again, it looks awesome. I have yet to see At least in the last few years, I have yet to see one of these Games Workshop like game edition boxes that doesn't have absolutely amazing key art or covers in this case.
True, but I would imagine that they don't pay as big a prices as we think. Because sometimes a freelance price is different than like a salary or a staff
Oh yeah,
price.
I'm talking about freelance. Obviously, if you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the artist hired per month, it's different, and they do have in-house artists. But I do know that some of the guys that were doing like specific pieces were freelancers, because
Okay.
I've talked to them and I've seen their portfolio, and it's absolutely amazing art. So, and then you put the fact that it's high profile, and then you put the fact that they are freelancers, so it's really expensive.
Yeah, I'm just not ready for that yet.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Um, so I think we've said everything we want to say on this section, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
So moving into 3D models. How much are you investing in 3D models, Rick?
So if I do not have this, if I had the 10,000,
Yeah.
I was thinking. Now this depends. Also, this is kind of how my brain works. It depends on what the concept art I needed because I didn't sit down and say, okay, this is literally going to be as a brain exercise if I was doing the space game 100%. So I was kind of just like picking rough numbers. So with depending on how much use I got out of the concept art, would then be like, well, how much do I really want to set aside for models? So for the models right now, I was putting like 4,000 because that is for me the most expensive thing and probably at least in my experience so far it's the most important thing. The key art is important. Obviously you have to have the concept art to some degree, but the models are at the end of the day what makes money.
Yeah.
So those have to be at a level where you're not only satisfied but that people can be excited by the way it looks when it's painted and want to buy it.
So how much?
4,000.
4,000. I think I think we can't fit these many Elons in here.
When I saw you use the 1,000s earlier, I was like, oh no, he's gonna have to move all this around.
I wasn't sure actually how many.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, because we didn't talk about it, so that people know it's real.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 4,000.
Yep. Most of
Um.
my budget's gone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the great thing about being me. My budget
It's
for 3D
0.
models is zero. Well, I'm gonna be like factual. It's not zero because time is money and I'm investing my time in doing the 3D models. Blah blah blah. Basically,
It's actually 30,000.
yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I have to factor in. Okay, if someone was hiring me to do this, how much money would it be? But in reality, yeah, it's zero. It's zero because it's me doing them, and it's my game, and it's my company.
Must
So
be nice getting your big old 0 there.
zero. um, and I think I can retroactively actually go back here and add another 1,000 here on the concept art, because I've just again I've been thinking most of the money I'm spending has been concept art,
Right.
because
Okay.
the the game is about mechs. It basically has mechs, and the 3D models will look as awesome as much awesome as they can if the actual mech concept is awesome. So it's really important to get awesome mech concepts basically. And
Yeah.
then
No,
and then
makes sense.
if the actual mech design looks awesome, then any key art with that mech will look awesome and the 3D model will look awesome basically.
So just as like a thing that maybe someone listening would be interested in, since you're the modeler,
Yeah.
do you make sure that the concept art is at that absolute finished place, or do you still make adjustments once you move into the modeling phase?
Very small adjustments. Usually I was very free with that, and I kept saying to people, okay, just give me, I can just use a rough concept, and I can like figure out the rest, because again, I'm not a very good Mac designer, but if you give me a base to work with, then I can work from there. But for Black Star, in this particular case, both because I want to use the concept art for promotional material, so it doubles up, and also because I wanted the best mech designs possible. I'm actually all the concept art has been like detailed. Oh, I still imagine I'll in modeling I'll change like 5 or 10% of it, and sometimes I imagine for practical considerations, like, okay, now in 3D I see this part is a little bit, needs to be a little bit shorter, a little bit bigger, or for articulation or for the joints connecting the parts I need to change this slightly. But yeah, I'm getting like the detailed concept art that I can go into the modeling phase, and 90% of the model will be the concept art.
Okay. Yeah.
Miniatures, 3D printing. Obviously, we're going to be printing prototypes for ourselves, but I don't really bet a lot on actually selling the prints myself, because it takes too long. I'm busy with so much other stuff that I'd rather give the job of 3D printing to qualified partners. So I would say 500, just because of the printing prototypes obviously costs consumables for the printer.
Yeah, and I was more only thinking because this doesn't get into, to my point of view, none of this gets into manufacturing. It's only in prototypes and the designing of the game. So for me, I was looking at something like $100 for resin. For the space game, the scale is going to be much smaller. So from filament that I would need to do prototype tiles, and then the miniatures themselves, it's very little. I mean, I might go up to like 200, but I mean, other than that, like it's pretty low. So you can leave that one blank because I'll just kind of fold that into the next one then.
Okay, okay. Um, Professional painting and photos. This is something that I think it's very important. Again, like you mentioned, we're not talking about manufacturing, because again, this comes from our experience and what we're doing, and both of us aren't doing injection molding in China or something like that, so we're not gonna have that kind of manufacturing in here.
Right.
So people want to see photos of the actual 3D printed like miniatures, usually in whatever resin or filament you use. But if you want to go that extra step, having really show off how cool the miniatures are, having them really nicely painted is a huge bonus.
So how much would you put on that?
I would put like
Ooh, look at you.
1500, something like that. Um, Something like, yeah, maybe 2000 actually. I'm not a good painter, so I know I will have to get people to to paint the mechs. And I've seen quotes around. Obviously, there are people in the community. I've talked to a few ever since last year. I have a few people lined up. And they are really good painters. And then you have the actual like bigger companies that do commission services. Sometimes they do partnerships. I know it's not gonna be like super cheap, but it's important that the max will the actual finished miniatures will look awesome, so that people can be blown away as much as possible.
Well, and you have the benefit that Black Star will be less models. So if you pay someone to do like this amazing, amazing paint job, you only really have to do that once. So the
True.
that model, and you could have that model painted 5 different ways, so you can see different color schemes, but you don't have to. But with Revelations products, there's going to be a lot more. So I I came at this more from the angle of, well, I'm going to have to do it,
Yeah.
because I don't have now. Granted, you can say, well, Rick, you have $10,000, but to me, to me, even at 10,000, I don't have enough available to really invest greatly here, because just the other considerations for what you need in order to get going. So for me, I was looking at this more from, I'm going to be the one painting, I'm going to be the one taking the photographs, because I have not yet found anyone who can take images, who can be a photographer, but understands like how to assemble the models, or who is a miniature game player. So because like in my experience, these anybody who I'm going to probably find that can do amazing photography probably doesn't know miniature games, and then they don't understand. Like, growing up as a kid, sometimes I would see um, action figure images, like in like the big box department stores. They'd have their flyers for Christmas and stuff. And you would see something like, one time I remember seeing an image of this action figure holding the projectile missile in their hand. This is the thing that's supposed to be loaded in the gun. It's a spring loaded gun, and it's going to shoot the projectile. And the photographer clearly didn't know what they were looking at, probably had never played with a toy like that in their life. So they took the projectile and they're just holding it. Like, no little boy would ever do that. They'd put it in the gun, right? So that, all, like, looking back, that kind of scares me, to hand a photographer who doesn't know anything of what you're doing and just be like, well, they take really good images. They do, but they don't know your things. They don't know how to capture the smaller things. So I'm trying to learn, through experimentation, a little bit of photography, enough to get by, enough to where people are like, oh, that looks really good. And that comes with the branded logo. It comes with better lighting. So because I have the equipment in place, I just need better skill. I only put like 400. So you could do like one little Elon in between the 3D printing and the painting, because I put the rest of the money was going to be for buying materials that I need for the sets, um, and maybe a different background that I want to put in a backdrop. So it's not that much money
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think you mentioned several things. I think I'm gonna add another Elon in there. First, you mentioned obviously Blackstar has less units and it's just Mechs, but then since the scale is much bigger, I know people will charge more to paint those.
Mm-hmm.
And then for scenery, for that nice setup, I will build a table, like a scenery table, all nice, so that I can take those nice pictures of the miniatures in a scenery as if they were in battle, like, again, like Games Workshop, and even some YouTube channels in their battle reports do that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Um, but I'm lucky in one aspect, is that obviously it's still paid work, but my brother-in-law is a filmmaker and camera operator and photographer, and he takes awesome pictures, and he knows how to shoot this stuff, so he's on standby and he will handle that for me.
Yeah. Well, that's very helpful.
Yeah. He has like the entire thing. I think he has like a he can borrow an 8K camera from work, and he has all the lighting gear, and his work is really good. So that's definitely gonna be a huge asset, as long as I can make a table that doesn't look like crap.
Well, and people don't know, because I've been trying to move forward with that with Revelations, and I've made a map that was based off one of the planets, and it adds up really quick, because if you really want it to look really good, I mean, you treat each piece of terrain as another miniature.
Yep.
So that
Yep.
same amount of time goes in that I wouldn't expect, because I always kind of treated terrain as like, this should be quick. It should be fast, but it should look good when it's done. But I mean, there's no reason that I'm going to invest the same. No, no. If you want something that really pops and really stands out to somebody just scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, like you need something really good. And you end up with each piece is treated like another piece of terrain or another miniature.
Yeah, and I have to be careful with that because as I said, I'm not really a good painter, so I don't want to like pay people to have these awesome painted mechs and then the scenery looks like poop. It will make
You
you
can
an even bigger
you can
contrast.
learn pretty quick.
Yeah, I think even though, yeah, to have really nice scenery, you have to give each piece of the scenery some attention. Um, I think everything adding up, the entire scenery adding up behind the mechs and all that. I think it will work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
So
think
we're both down to 2,000 or four little Elons.
we are poor. We need Elon to give us more Elons.
So there will be zero shock because I'll just jump in first. There will be zero shock that my universe and lore setup will be zero.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm assuming you're putting all 2,000 that you have left just into no.
No, it's gonna be the universe lore setup I'm doing also myself. It's gonna be zero, and the fiction part, novels, short stories, comics, etc. It's undecided, and for now I'm gonna try to do it. But if I see
Oh,
that I can't, because but I have a twist. I haven't even talked about this yet. Black. I think I had mentioned it in passing last year, but I wasn't decided. But the course of action for Black Star again. I'm gonna play to my strengths. I'm not a writer like you. I'm not gonna be writing novels, or I could write a novel, but it would read like a 6 year old wrote it or something. So I'm gonna play to my strengths, and I'm gonna Black Star will develop its fiction through a weekly updated webcomic. So for now, I'm gonna try to do the web comic myself. It's gonna update like
okay.
once or twice per week, and that's how. Obviously, when it releases, it will have a few pages so that people can get into it. After that, it will be 1 or 2 pages per week. I'm not looking to hire someone for the simple fact it's not the money, it's the simple fact that successful web comics usually are fueled by the creator. So 5 years later, he's still doing the web comic. It's still the same guy doing the art. And if I hire someone, even if I hired someone for say 12 months, after the 12 months, if that person doesn't want to do it anymore, or if they get another job that pays more or something like that, I will have to get a different artist, and I would like to avoid that. I would like Black Star to have like the same artist. And since it's just me, I will have to be the one to try to do the web comic basically. If I see that I'm not actually managing to do it, then I will have to hire someone, and I guess it will work more on the traditional graphic novel comic format, which is basically sometimes the artist will change, and that will be unavoidable. But for now, I will be the one trying to do it. And yeah, Black Star. I'm not a novelist or writer or anything like that. So universe lore setup, I'm doing it, and the plotting I'm doing, and obviously like the main gist of it on the source on the Black Star source book, I'm doing it. But most of the story and the lore will be built over time through a webcomic and will progress over time.
Okay. Yeah. No. Uh, I would love to have a web comic at some point, but that would be something that I know that I cannot draw.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, sometimes I forget that I don't really, I guess I don't really think of myself at times as I'm critical. I don't really think of myself as a writer. Um, I've written, but I don't really feel as confident in my writing capabilities. I see people give me nice comments and I'm like, yay, that helps a little. Um, but the fiction for me would still stay zero. The that
Yeah.
is the one of the things that I have a micron of skill at, so that I the one that can tie that together. Because looking at hiring, I've looked at a little bit of hiring other writers or authors to come in and help. And yeah, a short story can be a couple $100s, but I mean, novels you could easily drop several thousand. And the unless you have like a really big footprint or you're already established, dropping several $1,000s into one novel isn't the same as dropping several $1,000s into the 3D models.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to make that money back the same way, if ever. So it's just I'd rather write it myself, and
Yeah.
then it's easier to move forward.
And it goes even beyond that, right? So I could hire someone to actually do these short stories or novels or something, but it's gonna be really hard to get on the same page. I don't know. That person might feel really differently about specific characters or about where I want to take the universe, and then you're butting heads with another person that like it or not, even though you're paying them. They are investing their creativity and imagination into this. So you can't just be like, write just the stuff that I want to write, be a good monkey, be a good monkey. You can't do that. So at the end of the day, I'll have to do it myself, and I prefer to do it in a visual medium. I'm a huge comics fan anyway, so
Yeah, yeah. Well, and from my experience, when I've spoken to several people about it, I've said, look, I don't know, because if you only look at the images, you don't really know what's happening in Revelations. So if you want to come in and be interested in being a writer with me, I need you to read at least one of the novels all the way through, and I choose which one that I want them to read based on the type of story that they're going to possibly do, and and like and so far I haven't had anybody come back and say, yeah, I want to, and I think it's in part because they haven't finished reading, but and I don't know if it's so much my fault because they're just not interested, or if they're just more of like, I just want to write, and then you kind of give them homework and then they're not interested. But you're correct in that you're bringing someone else into your imagination, and they have to be able to fit in there. They can't bring all of their own ideas, because then it changes that you end up with a Ryan Johnson thing.
yeah.
You've now gone way off of the reservation. Like, this is what we're doing. We're in this box, and you're like, no, I like my box. Well, your box doesn't fit in my box. It's you know. So there I haven't yet. And you come back in 2 years and ask me, we may already have brought on other people to help write, or at least in the capacity of short stories, because I don't want to write everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But I haven't yet crossed that bridge of how do I bring someone in and then give them the keys to be able to tell their own. Now, granted, I'm going to read it, I'm going to help edit and bring it together to what I need it to be, but it still has to fit in everything else that's moving forward. Now, like with modeling, I am much more familiar with hiring someone. I have much different sort of expectations than what I had in 2019 when I started. I have, a very different process now, more refined. I know how to test. I know how to do the prints myself. I know how to look at a model and be pretty quick of like, yeah, that's not really going to print so well, to kick that back to get it fixed before I print it and it fails anyway. But with writing, I haven't yet gotten into that. I've tried a couple times with other people, but so far we haven't moved forward on anyone yet.
And it can be interesting to have like someone give a fresh perspective on the stuff that you are usually doing,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of defining the main course of the universe, I just think about both comics and also novels, like product lines like the Star Wars novels or the BattleTech novels. You always had specific authors writing specific characters. So if it was like a Victor Steiner Devian novel, you knew that Stackpole was writing that, for example. And if he showed up in someone else's novel, it would always feel slightly different. So that stuff is difficult to handle. It leads to not a lot of editorial and a lot of back and forth conversations between the authors, I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure, and I don't even know necessarily how those conversations go because as you develop a universe and it has more and more rules, um, like you have your own rules in physics, like how laser weapons work, how space travel works. So someone can't come in and change that. Those things have to be established. You have to keep everything the way that it was told before.
They need to
Um,
study it. They need to study how the
well,
universe works.
right, and that's been the bridge that hasn't been crossed. Is no one has come to me so far and said, "Hey, I read three of your five novels. I think I have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. Like, let's talk and we can, refine my perspective if I'm off." But it takes work on their end before I can hire them because I need them to be equipped with knowledge, and I can't just be on a Discord chat for 4 or 5 hours, six times to catch them up
Yeah,
between questions if they haven't read it. It's so much easier to just read it, experience it as a reader would, and then say, okay, what other stories do you want to tell, Rick? What direction do you want to go? Kind of thing with other stuff. But I wouldn't have anyone write the main things. I want to do those ones. There's so many other side stories and origin stories that I'd like to do that I could give to somebody else.
yeah.
That would be a single novel. It's encapsulated, but it fits with everything else. But yeah,
Yeah. And you mentioned also you don't have the time to be on Discord or stuff, having hours and hours of meetings with people. A lot of this, uh, and I'm talking about all the categories, is also a trade off with time. Like maybe I could have some decent painting and I could do some decent photos, but I'm busy with all the other stuff, so I'd rather just pay someone to do it. So
yeah, you're gonna have to pay someone to do something. You don't
yeah,
have, or just be like, yeah, it's gonna take me 3 years to finally release this because I'm gonna do every job,
yeah, exactly. That
and
that's
then what? Like your big success, and people are like, hey, make more, and you're like, okay, I'll see you guys in another 3 years while I go
yeah.
do it in the wave two.
That's one of my concerns with the webcomic as well, because I'm also doing all this other stuff. Even if I can technically, in terms of skill, actually manage to do the web comic in terms of the art, I'm actually not sure if I can keep the pace of like 2 updates per week, because once per week, I think people will find it hard to connect with it on a regular basis. They will just wait like 6 months each time to go read it or something. It needs to move faster. Most of the web comics that I read update 3 times per week, for example. But I can't update it 3 times per week because I'm doing models. I'm
Yeah.
doing illustrations. I'm managing stuff. I'm testing rules. I'm talking to people, etc., etc. So that's one of the concerns in that section.
Hmm.
Shall we move on to rules?
Mine is zero.
Right. Yeah,
Because
same.
that's another thing I feel I have a decent grip on is rule making.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, I'm also the one designing the rules engine. So,
We're designing the game, yeah, I'm not gonna pay anyone to design the game for me. This is the
no,
game. I'm designing the game that I want to play, that I would like to play. So it's gonna be me designing it.
right,
And same with
and
you, yeah.
yeah, and I already have all of the tools that I need to write with. So just adding in a rules document is not a groundbreaker, and I've already got the artwork moving forward. So I just do it.
Yeah. And what about playtesting? I think we touched slightly on this subject in one of the previous podcasts. I think it was I mentioned Jamie Stegmaier. Uh,
Right.
that his advice was actually to like pay some people to do blind testing and not just play test yourself with friends and stuff like that. What do you feel about that, Rick?
Um, I know that if I had a larger company that I would like to have playtesting teams around the world, and some of that may involve some sort of compensation, but in the short term, I put zero. I need I want people to play not because I'm paying them because I've I just don't see that going favorably.
Yeah.
it's going to be so dry in the feedback that it's not going to be someone who cares about the brand, wants to see it improve so that it sells better and that it grows and that they have a game that they're a community member of, but that they're just a mercenary just getting a paycheck to play a game. And the thing is like, if I, for example, if I hired you to play test Revelation Skirmish, one, I'd have to probably supply all the parts to you. So there's cost there,
Yeah.
whatever. It's, there's an investment there. But I know that you're going to need to play the game 4 or 5 times before your feedback is actually really helpful. Unless I just need, like, just do a quick start game. But if I need someone who's already got better experience, better exposure to the rules, finally understands all the rules, and can start to be a very minor veteran player, I need you to play like 5 times. Well, that could be a week's worth of work by the time you've done it. Like, I don't even know how to budget for that. Like, if and that's hiring one, that's hiring 2 guys. Does that end up being $500? Just $1,000? I don't even know what someone would charge to learn your game and become very, to understand it fully, not just like, yeah, I played it, and they get the mechanics all wrong. Like, you have to touch base with them, but then it's not blind, because I found that some players are playing, but they're not playing with the correct rules. So then all of the feedback I'm getting from that particular person isn't relevant because you're not playing the game correctly.
And you're even going from the setup that people are honest, right? You're paying someone,
Oh,
imagine,
well, yeah.
on the other side of the world, and then they come back with you with some notes, and you have no idea if they played 5 hours or if they played 50 hours like they were supposed to have done. It's again, I'm not saying this blind playtesting can be useful. It probably can. Jamie Stegmaier, who is like a published guy who has like a company with very successful games. I
Yeah, he's made
imagine,
millions of dollars.
yeah,
He's done it.
he's done it, so I'm not, obviously he's right. Blind playtesting can be useful, but at least for me, I don't feel I'm at that position. So yeah, it's a zero for me. For
But
now, doesn't mean I can't
yeah,
do it in the future.
but and for Jamie Stegmaier's perspective, he's also only selling board games.
Yeah,
So it's a very contained experience. You don't need expansions or supplemental material. It's all in that one package.
yeah,
And generally speaking, most board games, even some of the more complicated ones, you can kind of get down after 1 or 2 games. With miniature games, especially if it's a war game, there's usually a variety of units, and those units work together differently. And then when you list build, that changes the experience. The terrain that's on the table changes the experience. Environmental like all of those things changes the results dramatically.
yeah,
So it's not the same as a board. If I was doing a board game, I would probably have a very different perspective, because because I also know I'm not selling expansions more than likely. I have a base game, and that's probably it for at least a year. So I need that base game to be amazing. With Revelations products, I can update the stats if I find out something was broken. That doesn't mean don't play test and try to make sure it's not, but I can fix things later. With board games, you're kind of stuck.
and what exactly is blind playtesting? Because there's something to be said about, do you do you want people to actually have in-depth knowledge of games and lots of game mechanics, and they are heavy gamers, so they are into these kinds of games and worlds? Or do you want to have your gameplay tested by total noobs, to see how accessible the game is, how the game does, if they like the game, which elements are more popular? Because if it's the latter, you can just I can just grab, I don't know, my sister-in-law and my grandmother, and and get like these random people that I know don't play these kinds of games, to take a few hours off and actually see their reaction, so, and if you're looking for the other type, the more technical aspects, then it's maybe more useful for a board game. And again, I don't feel like I'm in that position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because you were talking about developing your own website. So I'm curious, what would you do for a website, or I guess also including your store, or would you wouldn't have a store, you'd be doing Patreon, but um, what is your budgetary allotment?
Well, I'm designing the entire website, and again, because time is money, and the day only has 24 hours, I'm considering if I should actually hire someone to implement the website instead of doing it myself, which I know will take a few weeks, a few extra weeks, and all that. And there will I'm not a programmer, so there will always be things in there that I will struggle with. So I'm actually considering hiring someone to actually like to deal with the part of the actual building of the website and customizing some elements to my liking. In terms of an app, I do plan to have some sort of game building, like mech building app. Not like open rules like BattleTech, but again like an army builder. Like you also have like picking the cards, picking the mechs, and all that stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
but for now, because again, money isn't infinite, I'm gonna stay out of it. But it's gonna be I'm gonna focus on the experience of browsing the website needs to be really really good so that people don't think investigating the website, and as they investigate the website they are discovering the game. That doesn't I don't want them to be turned off by that. So that part is important. That's why I'm considering just I'm doing the visual design of the thing and then maybe hiring someone to implement it.
Yeah, and what I figured was, well, for example, my storefront, I run that. I'm the one that sets all that up. Um, I need to build a website, but to me, from my experience with hiring website creators, it's super expensive,
Yeah.
and like I I'm just planning to design my website myself for right now. And the store I'm going to continue to manage because it's not that big of a deal. When it comes to the app, which for me is on a regular website, but for the list builder, I know that if I created the Revelation Space game, I need to add a new database to this. I don't exactly know how much it would be to add the new database onto my existing database, but I do know that it will not be cheap and that the guy that I've been hiring has gone up in price. So I have allotted $1,000 towards updates for that particular part of things, recognizing that I may have to end up, I may, in the theoretical, this game's launching, I may have to remove some money from like the models, for example, because that's where most of the money went
Yeah, we can
to
we can
to
have
reset up the website site.
we can have an adjustment phase at the end, because again like you said, I know it, like hiring someone to build a website isn't just $1,000. So this is more like a proportion kind of thing. if
Yeah,
if
yeah, 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 yeah.
if it
And
was actually going out and hiring one of those guys that really knows what he's doing, I would have to put half the budget into it.
I guess I didn't
um
spend that much.
I don't know, something like that. But I will need to. I will definitely try to implement most of the stuff myself. But
Yeah,
if there is like one or two elements that really require some customizing and some programming, and I'm not really feeling up to it, I can just hire someone to just do those. And I feel like they are really important, something that I need to have.
yeah, and I will say for myself, I probably can't properly articulate into words how much I hate doing website stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing the stats website because on the back end, I'm just creating a new unit, creating new stats. Like I could pay someone to do that, but then you have to give them all admin approval. It's not a big deal for me to do that. Creating an actual website with multiple pages of content and making sure everything's arranged and it clicks all through each thing, and it's like, oh, I hate that so much. And I guess in part because I know that I'm not a very good website developer. So my stuff doesn't look the way I want it to, but I don't have $10,000 to hire someone to make a website.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
know, like a really fancy polished website.
yeah.
I mean, easily $1,000 a page, easily without even blinking. And to then go a little bit deeper, yeah, it's not cheap for
Yeah,
website development.
that's my problem, because I can do these really super cool looking mockups in Photoshop, but then I lack the website building skills to actually implement some of the stuff that I'm designing there, because it's not like super basic. So I either make a dumbed down website, or I hire someone to do some of the heavier elements, and again,
Yeah,
they're not cheap.
no. So for now, you can put me down for 1,000,
All right.
but uh,
1,000 Elons. It's gonna hurt.
uh, uh,
Um, Social media. Social media. I can say right off, it's zero. I've seen people work with these supposed social media specialists, and you're gonna gain a lot more followers and have a lot more traction and blah blah blah. Everyone I know that hired these people, they didn't see any difference. So I'm besides, I basically have my Instagram. I'm gonna start using my YouTube, but I basically have my Instagram. I update it myself. It's not really that much work. I do all the art stuff myself, so I might as well just pump it on Instagram. So it's zero.
yeah, it's the same for me as zero because I've thought about hiring a social media assistant. And I've thought about it. I'm like, well, by the time I get done creating all of the content, I could post it.
Yeah, yeah. That's the
So,
thing. Either they are doing the graphical elements, or it's not worth it.
and if I pay someone, because I one of the freelance things that I do, I'm involved in a company that's connected to others that do social media or that are doing memberships and other things like on a business side of things. And I've been part of many of these conversations of, we need someone to do social media. And it's like, okay, but nobody knows your topic. So how are you going to hire someone to speak in your voice to create content that will engage with your audience that will then translate into sales, but nobody understands your content like you do?
Yeah,
Right. So it's difficult for me. And they're like, well, you can hire people in the Philippines. They're like $3 an hour. It's like, that's great. That's really cheap, but it doesn't help if that doesn't translate into anything. Right. Like it doesn't matter to hire some virtual assistant anywhere in the world for free. I don't care. However, $1 an hour, like that's insane. But like just saying, so what? You saved money, but then your money, there's time and frustration. And what did you get out of it at the end of it? I don't see social media is so finicky that it would be hard for me to think that I could hire someone who's going to transform what I'm doing, make lots of sales, grow the audience to like this crazy level, 10,000 raving fans, and they're going to do it cheap. No, it's going to be very expensive, and it's going to involve an ad budget, is what it's going to end up coming down to. And that's not cheap depending on what you're doing. So I will handle the social media for the time being. And eventually I do want to hand it off, but right now I just don't see there's nobody on my radar who could do it
yeah,
to a level that it's going to be worth the money spent.
yeah. It's basically that. And social media is really elusive. It's a really elusive thing. I keep running into Instagram profiles like with amazing art or amazing content, and they have really few followers, and then you have like these really basic and interesting Instagram profiles that have like tons and tons of followers. But then you have to see if they are fake followers or not. What's the engagement on each post and all that? It's hard. Some
Oh
some
yeah,
some
right.
games and some gaming companies have like really small amounts of followers. Some others have like a lot of followers, but then in terms of market presence, both games are sort of around the same. So you kind of start wondering why that difference in the amount of social media presence. I can't tell you. All I can tell you is that I'm not gonna allocate money to that, and the people that I've seen that have actually hired people to do it, I didn't see any difference. So, and if it's just someone to do like elements, I mean, I'm gonna post the artwork from my own stuff. I'm not gonna hire someone just to save me the 5 minutes that it takes for me to post it.
Right. And like you said, I've seen Privateer Press, who makes Monster Apocalypse and
Yeah,
War Machine.
War Machine.
I look at their stuff and I'm like, they're not getting like any likes really. And what is upsetting is likes do not translate to sales.
Yeah.
Anybody can click a thumbs up and be like, "Oh, I love that picture." That doesn't mean they're buying anything. So from a business perspective, the likes to purchasing ratio are never the same thing. So, social media, I could rant for an hour because it frustrates the heck out of me.
But perception is also important. It really leaves you wondering why, like you mentioned, why doesn't Privateer have really any traction in terms of likes, and some other company has like tons and tons of likes and comments and engagement? Is it fake? Is it real? Because I tend to again to think that if the sales are the same, or even if the other company sells less, then it's probably fake. It's probably bots, or the kind of shit that goes on Twitter all the time with fake people, bots doing fake comments. You have entire threads of people, supposedly quote unquote people talking, and it actually looks realistic, but then you find out it's bots.
Yeah, that happens on YouTube too. I'll see a thread of like 12 different people with like semi-realistic comments to each other,
Yeah.
but you know that they're fake because they're all promoting some person who teaches you how to buy crypto and win the market. And like, you think does this work on people?
Well, and I've been told about this stuff, and he's actually hiring Cami from Pakistan and her team to to astro to astroturf your stuff. uh, but yeah, I'm gonna save my money.
Diamond hands.
I'm gonna save my money on that front. I will, however, invest the last 1,000 Elons on advertising, doing some ads on Instagram and stuff like that.
Well, and actually, funny enough, that was how much I was going to leave as well. I mean, you can tell because it's the last two Elons I have. But I was thinking. I've actually been thinking recently of revisiting advertising on social media. I'm not sure if Facebook or Instagram. I've noticed that more of my sales for Shopify through my storefront come through Facebook. But Facebook ads can be very expensive. So there's some different strategies I've been kind of learning from my other job that I'm considering dabbling with.
Well,
But that $1,000, you don't spend that $1,000 on advertising all at once. You do like
yeah,
tests, and it's
you do several campaigns and all that.
yeah, it's advertising and social media are two extra jobs in themselves. So it's
But I do
it
see
it takes a lot of brain power for both of those.
But I do see some traction with advertising because I've done Facebook ads in other businesses, and I did see a difference in engagement and in the people and the amount of traction that we got. I happen to hate Facebook with a passion. I don't even have a Facebook presence. I'm considering if I should change that just basically obviously for business reasons in order to have ads there and to sell Blackstar basically. Um, Especially since I know that Facebook ad stuff is integrated into Instagram since they bought Instagram.
Yeah.
And then I have people that keep telling me to go into TikTok, go into TikTok. It's huge. It really blew up my brand and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm not doubting that, but
I am.
usually it's different stuff. How am I gonna sell a miniatures game on TikTok where shaking your ass for 8 seconds to a camera is the main money maker? I don't get it. But people
Uh,
swear up and down that TikTok is blowing up and it's insane and all that stuff.
but TikTok will come and go. It won't it won't last.
That's
And I guess
normal.
none of the platforms could last, but
Yeah,
there's a different mentality with TikTok than there is with the others.
I don't.
So,
Basically, my question is, I don't see. Imagine I do like a short turntable of a really nice painted miniature, right? It's like ten
right.
seconds,
Yeah.
and I put it on Instagram Reels, and people keep saying that if I put it that same 10-second clip on TikTok, it will gain. It will get me much higher traction, and I'm like, why? Bec- I don't get it.
Uh, from what I've seen of TikTok, and have not downloaded it, but I've been watching from the fringes. It's almost like the NFTs where people are saying it's going to be big. Now the NFTs right now are not doing so good. So their life cycle came and went a lot faster than TikTok has. But I'm the same as you. I'm like, how am I going to promote a new novel on TikTok? How am I going to promote this new miniature or concept art for a new miniature? Like it's not even finished, right? Like I just want to just like on Instagram and Facebook, I can share a picture of a new infantry unit and I can get likes and I can get some traction and some comments about it. But what am I going to do in TikTok? Like what are people are going to want to look at this picture, unmoving picture? What am I going to move my phone back and forth to make it look like it does it seems stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I'm not really much of a social media guy. I have taken a liking to Instagram, but I hate Facebook and I hate Twitter, and I think TikTok is dumb. So people can say, "Okay, boomer" or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I get it. There are some business realities. If someone manages to actually like fully convince me go into TikTok and it's gonna be insane, then I'll do it for business reasons. But other than that, I'm not gonna waste my time doing stuff that I know I won't enjoy for some kind of dubious return.
Yeah, and it's I've even been looking at creating my own forums and stuff and going that way where I'm more off network only because like with social media, I'm finding recently that some of my stuff is not doing very good at all. And I'm
Right.
using the same tags as what I was using a few months ago. And I know that tags can change and stuff, but it's miniatures market. Like this isn't following trends of whatever's cool right now.
It's weird.
So
It's super weird.
and it ebbs and flows, and that's why I don't put all my eggs in social media because I've seen it. I've seen things get weird and then they change their rules on things. And it's very hard to keep up with.
You know,
It's very hard.
you mentioned the forum. It's something I've thought about. First, I did create the Black Star subreddit, but again, I hate Reddit is a dumpster fire. So I actually don't really want to develop that. I want. I have the Black Star subreddit, so no one else can have the Black Star subreddit. You're laughing, but it's true. Reddit is
No,
terrible.
no, it's like that's what I think of Twitter
Yeah,
is like I don't see a point in going there. It's
and
just
I
not going to go well for me.
and I do sometimes use Reddit, but I do recognize that because it's still useful, especially for comics collecting stuff. I do find a lot of useful information there and stuff like that. But um, and for soccer stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, but Reddit it's a dumpster fire and it's really like caught up in all the stuff that is going on in the world, and I don't like it. So a long time ago I used to have like a forum, and when it shut down, we had like 4,000 members, something like that.
Wow.
It was some. It's actually shocking how no one remembers BattleTech Mod Productions, which was like the website I used to run, and the forum we had. Because at one point we really had a lot of users in the BattleTech community, and no one seems to remember it. But I forums are still traditional message boards are still the thing that I enjoy the most. But since I got heavily into Discord, which is basically the other social media thing that I use, and I do like Discord, I'm not sure in terms of time, in terms of engagement. These generations, this lately, most people tend to actually like being on Discord. So I'm not sure if having a forum would a message board, the traditional one, would be actually useful for anything, and that's why I haven't done it.
Yeah, I personally like forums better because it keeps everything organized better.
Yeah,
But Discord has been my number one personally for a while, just because I can actually build a community there as
yeah,
opposed to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where people can comment, but you don't have an opportunity to really converse. It's just not designed for that. Like you can, but it's really hard to do. It's not optimized for that. It's optimized completely for consumption and for addiction. It's not the same as actually having a conversation with a person.
yeah. And I do enjoy Discord for the same reasons you do. It's like it's cool to build a community and very dynamic, and you can actually talk to people and talk to fans, and I do like it.
Yeah. So, is there anything that you would change now looking back on your entire uh, allotment that you've done?
Yeah,
Why are those moving?
I was testing something. I would probably, sorry, I would probably like move this one to here to key art. Because I was thinking about the stuff that will happen, will go on, and that I will be making, and yeah, I want to have like really nice pictures of the mechs again. Blackstar is all about the mechs. I'm selling cool mechs, so the mechs need to be cool, and they need to look cool. They need to look hot, and they need. I also want the quality to be uniform. So if I have like two or three really great looking mech pieces, then I have to spend some money or time to make all the other mechs also have like really cool and awesome pieces.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's roughly around that. I think it's
Yeah.
roughly around this. Yeah.
I'd probably just shuffle one little Elon from models to a website because I figured that will be if I were to go and update and put the Revelation space game on my website, it probably would be about 1,500.
Right. Right.
Hopefully, not more.
Right. And let's do like a funny exercise. Bonus
Okay.
round. We have an extra
Bonus round.
we have an extra $500 because someone ordered a large amount of STLs.
Okay.
What would you spend these extra Elons?
The joke's on you. I already got extra concept art design just for the next modeling phase. I'd put it models. I try to already have things kind of working ahead. I do not always, but I'd like to be mindful of working ahead.
Yeah. So it goes into models.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, and I would put it on website because yeah, I know the reality. So yeah, I will need to invest more money on that. And yeah, I think this would do, right? Something like this. Do you have
Yeah, so
any extra adjustment that you would like to make?
no, no, I just would like to just, hey, if there's someone who has $10,000, I could do this. I could do like even if you did eight, like I could do this. 7,500. I can't I don't want to keep bidding, but I'm not a clanner.
Yeah,
Uh technically I do like anyway, no, side note. But uh yeah, I think this is probably pretty close.
to like realistically, if I just all of a sudden had $10,000 to put into another game, this is probably pretty mindful of what I would actually do.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah. Then obviously there would also always be some hard decisions like this part costs extra that I wasn't predicting, so I have to take something out from another one of those parts. But that's unpredictable.
Right, and that's just part of the business process. Is you try very hard to be mindful, but stuff changes, or a piece of art, like you want a key art, but well, you've added in too many characters, so now it's an extra 100 or an extra, and that adds up across the entire process, um
Yeah,
of once it's
yeah.
finally done.
One other thing that I was including in there, that's why I put an extra 500 on key art, is that on key art illustrations, is that I also have the cards and all that stuff. So I want those,
Yeah.
I want those to have like cool illustrations. Obviously, I have figured out ways where I can cut costs. Like I'm not gonna have like this super nice illustration for each individual weapon because I can't afford that. I'm not Wizards of the Coast.
Just take out a second mortgage. Just
Yeah. No
hey,
way.
honey, we've gambled the house again.
Well, at a certain point, even if you had that, would you do it? If
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
imagine someone says, "Rick, I really like Revelations. I think the Blood Wolves are my jam. Here's 100K, and let's do some work." Would you actually go out and say, "Okay, now I can spend $3,000 on making these 200 cards look the best they can"? Would you actually do that?
I would have to spend a good couple weeks really, really, really thinking how I would step things up into a different direction. Because if you all of a sudden, like, we're doing 10,000, so if you add a zero,
Yeah.
oh my god, I don't even know. I'd have to really sit down and think.
To be fair, we now that we are finishing this exercise, we I probably should have put like 100K. It's just that most indies don't have that money, you know. But it would be more realistic in terms of the values, because again, what kind of website work can you actually manage to get done just hiring someone for $1,500? Not
Well, I
much.
think my first mindset would be one, wanting to contact the I wouldn't do it immediately. Like I'd have to think through what I would feel comfortable with, but I would probably move things into a direction of talking to the artists who have worked with me diligently
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Hey, I can we can change this from a freelance situation to a part-time staff position.
Right.
And I can dedicate a decent amount of money to you, but I need to know how will this change the model output or the artwork output, and then try to see, like, look, because I'm hiring you as part-time staff at this point, the pricing may have to be different, but you're going to make significantly more for me than what you were, and try to see how, and it would probably move more into a management conversation than just, oh, I'm going to rush out and make 50 new models because I know how much time it takes for me to do each one, that I would want to start having people in place to really allow me to scale things, because I know this is my guy for tanks. This is my guy for infantry. And I wouldn't have to keep worrying about, oh, he's busy because of work. I got to go find somebody else, and all that time that gets spent scrolling through Instagram or DeviantArt trying to find somebody, then contacting 10 people to hopefully get one interview out of it. Um,
You know what's
uh,
funny about that is that I've actually been searching for that. I've actually now been trying to get someone to actually hire them and give them like a year, 12 a contract like 12 months, like a company obviously.
mhm.
I want to have like an actual in-house artist, so to speak. But
Right.
everyone is busy.
Well,
I haven't managed to find one that I like that is available. All of them, even if they are available to do like one or two quick pieces, in terms of some freelance work, but they already work someplace, and as such they can't really come work for me. But I would like that. I would actually like to hire someone for like a year full time.
Yeah. And I think that would be stepping things into a new direction that I wouldn't be able to do today. And if I had that sort of money, hiring someone to write, hiring, let's say I find 5 guys willing to write short stories that I can put together, and now I can sell a compilation book, or I can use those short stories for promotional material or something else. I'd be able to have a freedom to hire other people that I wouldn't have. And part I would probably have to, not probably, if I had that sort of money, I'd have to figure out how much I could pay myself, and that has to be the conversation with whoever would be investing that, because it'd be like, look, I need to be able to switch for like 6 months to doing this like full time. If we're really going to step this up, I need
Yeah.
full time availability, and I don't have that right now. So I can't. So like every time I have a conversation with a modeler because there's a mistake, or we're just doing the back and forth that's just natural, like even just everything's moving forward positively, but that all just takes up an hour here, an hour there, and it's really difficult to switch back and forth between, okay, I want to just create rules, oh, I just want to create stats, I just want to write fiction, and then you're switching back and forth with conversations with artists. It disrupts your thinking too much, and you lose momentum.
Yeah.
So it's I would really have to think about it, but I would love that opportunity if someone's listening that really wants to see Revelations go. I think it can.
Yeah. Again, people, investors, you know where to find Rick. Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully everybody listening found this somewhat helpful or interesting, because if you were doing the same thing, it's going to be what is your skills. So like both of us
Yeah.
offset
Yeah.
particular things. He has nothing in modeling, and I have most of the money that on anything spent is in models.
Yeah. But I did find interesting that we have aside from the 3D models. Well, I guess I put a lot of money in professional painting as well. But we have a large chunk there that is mostly the same
Yeah.
between both of us. I actually thought this would be more different between both of us. But yeah, I hope this has been useful for people and entertaining. And next time we do this, like we can do this like a year from now again, and actually have video of us getting blazed, just like Elon, and maybe Elon can be there with us. The also
We
out.
have to be pretty big potatoes to have Elon even like notice that we exist.
Don't underestimate Elon, man. But both of us aren't really Twitter guys. He seems to be addicted to Twitter. If you can do some comments like that draw his attention, he actually replies to like random people and all that. So hey Elon, do you like Mechs? I have a game for you.
Watch,
Quick.
and he'll be the first one to be like, you know what we really need in the world is like a fully pilotable war mech. We just need that.
Yeah, he's not the
It's
only
just-
one. He's not the first, because there are people trying to do fully pilotable mechs already. But yeah, he would probably do it. Like Tesla powered, a fully eco-friendly mech. Forget that he has like autocannons and a Metal Gear style nuke launcher,
Yeah.
but it's ecological, guys. Okay.
Totally green powered, guys.
Yeah.
Totally green.
Those Tesla batteries. Mined from China using slave labor and all that, but
But it's to fight the aliens on Mars.
of course,
So
of
that the
course.
human imperium can expand.
And Xenu is coming, so we have to prepare ourselves. Okay, guys. This has been the Mechs and Miniatures episode 9, if I'm not mistaken, right, Rick?
I think yeah, it's 9.
Yeah, we
We're
met.
almost to the double digits.
Yeah, man, that's my goal in life, to have double digits on a podcast.
Almost there.
Almost there. So you've heard it here first, everyone. Episode 10 will be the last one. No, it actually won't be the last one.
This is news to Rick.
Yeah. As soon as I hit double digits, I'm out, bitches. I guess we'll see everyone again next week, right?
Well, they'll see us. I won't see them. I don't work for the NSA.
Yeah. Oh, right. Right. That's why. I
Yeah,
have my
I know.
webcam unplugged at all times. It's just a coincidence. Nothing.
Just a coincidence.
Nothing to see here, guys. All right.
But
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
I was just gonna thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you guys again in the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.